Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are going into our favorite video each and every day, Nate, the player props that we have been pretty hot on as of late to start this season. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We've also got a couple other videos up about that Warriors-Phoenix rematch there, as well as the Lakers and Clippers in LA taking on each other there. As always, though, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area. Nate, let's get into our favorite player props for Friday night tonight.
Yeah, I'm starting with Luka. The man has gotten it going finally. It's pretty similar to last season where he started really poorly from deep and couldn't find his offense. And lately, he has been on fire, kind of peaking with 28 points over 27 minutes when the Mavs just rolled the Pelicans in New Orleans on Wednesday. And now they get him at home. And it's just been a matchup where he has obviously thrived. New Orleans, a little bit of a different team at this point. But you look at his last 10, he's averaging 31 points, 9 rebounds, 8.5 assists, shooting 51 from the field, 42% from deep in his last 10 against New Orleans. And then those numbers jump to 32 points per game and 8.8 assists per game when he plays them at home. He's got a pretty low prop here for points and assists, 36.5 at FanDuel, minus 115, not the greatest odds, but I think there's almost no chance he doesn't get that if New Orleans is a little bit more competitive in that immediate rematch here. Because, again, he only played 27 minutes on Wednesday. Luka is once again leading the NBA in usage rate and assist rate. His assist rate is 45.3%, which means nearly half of Dallas's possessions that end with an assist are credited to him. And so going against a Pelicans team that allows 25.7 assists per game on the road, you can kind of project him for 12 dimes here. You can look at his double-double bonus here. You can look at, just the assist numbers, 10 assists in a win. I believe it's like plus 220 at FanDuel, 30 points in a win. But I think the safest bet is just combining those two because he will get his in both regards. I mean, in his last 6, his usage is up to 36.6%. Already leads the league at 36%. And he's averaging a combined 39.3 points and assists. So I think, he can definitely keep those averages up against a Pelicans defense that is just plain bad.
Yeah, just plain bad. Absolutely. That's the word. I mean, it was not a fun game at all to watch. If you did happen to turn on Dallas blowing out New Orleans the other day, it was not fun. I hate these home at homes. I was saying the other day, we're going to start needing a stat up about these home at homes, or just these back to backs, even when they're you travel to different places. But Luka against a really bad Pelicans team, why not? If Kristaps doesn't play tonight, once again he's day to day. You still expect more from Luka. That usage rate goes up just a tinge when Kristaps isn't in there because there's really nobody else shooting besides him and Tim Hardaway Jr. at this point for the Mavs. So I think the assists feel pretty good for him. He gets those up to about 8 when Kristaps didn't play in the last couple seasons. He's still doing Luka's stuff about 26, 8 and 8. So it doesn't really impact him negatively at just a slight uptick in usage rate. And I think that's going to help tonight as well against a bad Pelicans team that I don't necessarily know what we're going to get from them. They might win by 4. They might lose by 27. I would probably take the latter in that, and if I had to guess. So moving on to another of those sort of back-to-backs, even though the Suns did play last night against the Pistons, they're coming out again to take on the Warriors, which they did beat them Tuesday night. And we're looking at Chris Paul here without Devin Booker. This is, I think, pretty much the easiest thing we feel specifically for the Suns tonight. If you do want to put any money on Phoenix, Chris Paul over 25.5 points and assists combined gets you about even money on FanDuel. Or if he just gets a double-double, that's plus 120. And like I said, this is all about what he does without Booker. In the last 4 games that he's played without Book, dating back to last season, his usage rate climbs from 22%, still really good, to 30%, right, which is definitely good for tops in around tops in the league. And his points per game, really, that's another crazy one. Obviously, with the usage rate and those shots going up for him, he goes from 16 points a game to almost 24 points a game in that time frame, which gets you right to about that 25.5 points and assists. Got to think he's going to get a couple assists in there if he's able to get those 24 points or so. And his assists don't really drop when Booker is out. That 8.9 when he's in versus 8.5 when he's out in that same time span as I mentioned. So you still feel really good about him and what he's able to do when he's going to have the ball in his hand and be expected to either score or assist a bucket pretty much on every possession.
And he's not a guy you worry about on the road at all. It kind of feeds off that heel mentality, the OG when compared to Trae Young, right? He loves to silence a crowd. He's shooting 37% from three on the road, averaging more points per game this season. And in his last 3 trips to Golden State, a very tough place to play against some really good teams, he's got 23, 20, and 24 points. Since joining the Suns, he has or in his last 2 meetings as a member of the Suns, he has a double-double in both of those against Golden State, and he's shooting 53% from the floor. So give him a little more usage, and you got to like his raw production here against those Warriors. John Collins and the Atlanta Hawks, I will be transparent and say this is not my most confident bet. I think that the Hawks and Sixers are extremely wonky teams at this point, but what I do think you can predict is a lot of missed shots. Philly really just what an ugly performance in Boston on Wednesday, especially from Joel Embiid, who, you're coming off COVID. I guess it makes sense that you're really out of rhythm. You can't seem to find the basket. You're not as aggressive. He's not getting to the line. And the Hawks are going to force, I think, some more missed shots. They're excellent in defense at home. And they're 8th in rebounding rate there. Philly is a bad rebounding team at this juncture, 19th in rebound rate on the road. And they're giving up the most rebounds per game while shooting the 3rd worst percentage from the field since Embiid came back 3 games ago. So John Collins, solid 14.2, 10.5 rebounds per game in his last 6 against Philly. Makes sense that his minutes are secure when you got guys like Tobias Harris and Matisse Thybulle playing a lot of minutes for Philly. So I just look at, 7.5 rebounds for him, or a nice combined 22.5 points and rebounds. Since Atlanta's going to be without DeAndre Hunter and Bogdanovich, I think tonight they should look to get Collins a little more involved. And Capella's going to have his hands full playing defense on Embiid. So maybe it's more Collins and Trae Young pick and rolls there.
Yeah, and you've also got Cam Reddish, who is questionable to play tonight as well. He's probably going to be a game time decision. Just adding to the fact that where's that offense going to come from? It's going to come from Trae Young, probably a little bit less driving and kicking, a little bit more pick and roll and getting either floaters or those lobs to Collins. And yeah, if Embiid's in there, right, you want to bring him out. He's guarding Capella. You want to bring him out a little bit. Maybe run that pick and roll with Collins and have Capella a little bit more on the extended baseline out of the way there and can run to the hoop in that dunker spot if needed. So yeah, I like that for them as well. I mean, you can consider Trae Young as well, to be honest, in this one. I think, there's a little bit of what he, remembering what he did last playoffs against Philly in the way that I think he'll probably still bring that level of intensity to this matchup. And the fact that, he's going to be working with Capella and Collins on this one, but Collins is a better bet in terms of getting those raw stats you mentioned, as he's going to be needing to do a lot of the dirty work on the boards, as well as, getting some buckets for them with a lot of scorers out. So, speaking of scorers, James Harden is who I'm looking at tonight as the Nets are taking on the Timberwolves. The spread seemed kind of high when we first saw it, just to be honest. But we've got some injuries for Minnesota that should really hinder their ability to hang around too much in this game. Cat is out, is questionable, and Ant is also questionable tonight. And you really got to think that if Minnesota doesn't have their 3 guys in that they rely on there, and especially, the defensive Ant, and even a little bit of the increase in defense from Cat tonight, there's going to be some opportunities for James Harden to get his and get in the lane and do what he does. And in his last 5 home games this season, he's really stepped it up, 26.5 points, 9.5 boards, and 8 assists in that time with a 32% usage rate, which is higher at home, by the way, as well, which is why we like him a little bit more tonight. He's got 3% percentage points higher of a usage rate when he is at home. And he does score, more points per game at home. It's really a volume thing with him. He's not quite as efficient at home, but when he's there this season, he's pulling, and he's taking over on the offense. And then, Minnesota actually has been a pretty good defensive team this year, but more specifically at home. On the road, they dropped from number 3 in opponent field goal percentage to number 20. And they go from number 3 in points per game allowed at home to 27th in the league in points per game allowed on the road at about 114.7 points. And, like we said, with those injuries tonight and some of the, the lack of continuity that they have, you're going to see, I think, a definitely decrease in their normal defensive abilities as well. And James Harden, not too high of props, in my opinion, at 23.5 points, gets you about even money on FanDuel. If you want to just make it 25 points in a win, that's plus 200. I think the win feels really secure, and that extra 1.5 to go from odds of minus 108 to odds of plus 200. Take that 25 points in a win for him, and that feels like the best bet for your money for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Nets projected to score 115.5 at home, and when Harden is posting a 32% usage rate lately in those home games, you can expect a healthy dose of him tonight. He's starting to realize that, I mean, it's just him and KD, obviously, especially with Joe Harris out. It's less about him trying to open things up and find guys. He's playing alongside DeAndre Bembry and James Johnson half the time. So it's not like he's trying to find them for threes. He's got to go get his. He's adjusting to the free throw rules, the new officiating points of emphasis, and he's scoring. And in more high profile matchups, like you saw him just go off against the Knicks at home or at MSG, whatever it was. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't Brooklyn. It was just full of Knicks fans in the
Knicks fans, yeah. And Minnesota's a hot team right now, 7-2. I expect both those guys to play and hopefully keep it close enough so that Harden's in there in the fourth quarter and continues to put up his points.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. Like you said, that Knicks game was a good indication of James Harden looking for his now 17 points in that first half. And I think we can expect a bunch more points from him too. Probably still pretty pissed off that he got beat up by Mikal Bridges last Saturday as well. So he'll continue that offensive pace that I think we've been seeing from him. So that is all the time we have for today, Nate. As always, y'all make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Got a couple other videos up for you today on this fun Friday night slate. And until we see you next, happy betting.